Welcome to this HTML video where we'll be talking about media and interactivity. Now, before you had to download and install some plugins like Adobe Flash and other plugins to be able to play videos and audio, but now with HTML5 audio and video tags, we can include our own video. And the way we do it is we have our audio tag and then we have a source. Now we need an MP3 or an OGG because some browsers will only play MP3s and other browsers will only play OGGs. So to convert an MP3 to OGG, all you have to do is search online and you can upload your MP3 to an MP3 to OGG converter. So you find that website, they'll let you upload an MP3 and then you can download an OGG. And that's basically the same for our videos controls, where we'll have a movie that's in an MP4 format, and then you can convert it to an OGG. There's free online converters to be able to convert it to OGG, and then you'll get a video in your page. Now you can also click play, and they'll play. And there's some other options that we can add up here as well. We can add an autoplay, but this probably won't work very often. And you can also loop it. But that's probably pretty annoying, so you probably don't want to do that. You can also do the same for your video controls. Now, just in case you have an older browser that doesn't support the audio and video tags, you can include a little message saying your browser doesn't support that tag inside of this. And as you can see, the audio and video controls don't show, or that message doesn't show up on our web page when the controls work. But if they don't work, then they'll be able to see this message. Now, a better way to include a video on your web page is to upload the video to YouTube and let them host it. That way you don't have to pay for hosting large videos, and it will show ads. That could be the downside. But to embed in a video, you can go to YouTube, and a lot of videos let you embed them in another web page. And this is up to the person who owns the video. So if they don't want it embedded, they can click an option and say, don't allow this to be embedded. But to be able to embed this video, what we can do is we click on share, and then that gives us all of these different ways to share it. And the first way here is embed. And so you click that and it gives you some HTML code that you can copy and paste into your website to embed that video. And as you can see, we have this video embedded in our website. Now there is one thing with this code that we copied and pasted from YouTube. And this part right here, this frame border, will cause a validation error to happen. So you can either ignore the validation error, but if you don't want it, you can get rid of that frame border and it will show a slight border around your video. And if you want to get rid of it without a validation error, you can use CSS to get rid of it. And so you can see there is a slight little border around the video because we got rid of that, but it still looks pretty good. So you could just delete it and not worry about it. Now let's talk about the transform property. The transform property allows us to take anything on our web page and transform it. Now transform means to either rotate, scale, make bigger and smaller, or translate, which means to slide around any element on your page. Now I'm doing it with a figure tag, so it's going to translate both the image and the caption. But you can do this on anything, even the audio and video tags, any text or any div tag that you have on your web page. So to do that, we just use the transform property, and we can rotate something like 45 degrees. You can also scale something. Now, if you notice, when we rotate and scale something, it just moves the image or makes it bigger. But the elements around it, like even this video tag and other stuff, the picture has moved into them. And so you do have to make sure that when you do these transforms that you reserve space either with margin, padding, or some other layout tool for this picture to get bigger. Now, most likely you're not going to scale it or translate it. You're mostly going to rotate. But just so you know, we can translate the image as well, and you can see that it moved it over here. But if we had other elements in this spot, this picture would go over those other elements. So the reason why you probably would only use rotate is A, you already have a way to translate pictures and you can use position relative to do that. And second, to scale it up, if you wanted a bigger picture, you just choose a bigger picture. You can choose a bigger font size. So it's kind of hard to know why you would do a transform unless you're doing something more advanced like animation or something like that. Now, I said before that as you can tell, this picture is going into other elements on the screen. And maybe if we add a little bit of margin, we'll reserve some space if we just rotate the picture 80 degrees. And now you can see we've moved with the margin up here, we've been able to reserve enough room for this picture to get rotated. Now let's talk about transitions. So I've added a button or a link onto my page and I want to style it up to make it look like a button. So I do it with this CSS, I make it a block, that way I can add some padding and that's what makes it this big. I also need to add some width onto it and then I set the color, the background color, I align the text in the center and I get rid of the underline. And then using the pseudo class hover, I'm able to have the color of the button change as I hover over the button like this. But if you notice, the change is instantaneous. It goes from the darker blue to the light blue right away. What if we want to animate that and basically have this transition happen over time? So we can add animations with the transition properties. And so the color or the thing that's changing is the background color. It goes from this dark blue to this light blue. So the background color is the transition property that I want to animate, and I want it to happen over 3 seconds. So now as you can tell, as I hover over this, the color slowly changes. Now 3 seconds is probably too long, and if you notice it also slowly changes when I stop hovering over it. And 3 seconds is probably a little bit too long for the animation. You probably want to bring that down to 1 second or less. The goal of animations is to make it so the users don't notice it, but it does make the web page feel more natural as the user interacts with it. Now, right now, the transition happens linearly. That means it changes at a consistent rate of change. But we can have that change differently by having the transition timing function. So what this means, the ease in out, what that means is that it will slowly start changing and then go faster and faster and change until it reaches kind of maximum speed. And then as we get to the final color, it'll slowly start slowing down. And that makes it feel a little bit more natural to the user, kind of like a car when it's at a stop sign. It slowly accelerates to its maximum speed, then it's going, and then as it reaches the next stop sign, it slowly slows down to a stop. And I'm not sure if you can really tell the difference between that, but if you notice at the very beginning, it changes color slowly, then it's faster in the middle, and then it slows down at the end. Now we can group all of those properties, the transition property, the transition duration, and the timing function into one line with this shortcut property. And you can see it still does the same thing. Now finally, there's also a transition delay that delays the start of the change. And this is for 2 seconds. So we can see we have to wait 2 seconds for this button to change. Then it starts changing for over 3 seconds until the end. Now, one of the main reasons why you want to do the transition delay is if you want to chain a couple of transitions together. Maybe you have the button sliding across the screen with a translation first, and then when it gets to its spot, then you want it to change color. So the way that you would do that is sliding across the screen would happen first for 2 seconds, and then after those 2 seconds, you can do a delay on the color change.